This is the round ahead, thanks to Coles, Nat Edwards, Josh Gabelich and Chad Wingard with you. 6 teams remain in the hunt for the premiership, and gents, it's about to heat up even more.
It certainly is, Nat. Semi-final weekend, Chad, used to be a bit of a fizzer, but if it's anything like recent times, it's going to be a cracking weekend.
You must be very, very pleased, Chad, after the weekend.
Unbelievable. I thought the chips were all down, but the boys came out strong, so looking forward to this week.
Well, so much at stake. You can see it there. That is the road to the grand final. Of course, Geelong and Collingwood waiting in the prelim, and this is how it's shaking out come week 2 of the final. Semi-finals, do or die. It starts at the Adelaide Oval up against Hawthorn, the Crows, and then Brisbane and Gold Coast in what is going to be the biggest ever Q clash. I cannot wait for that. But let's start on Friday night. Of course, as I mentioned, it is Adelaide and Hawthorn at the Adelaide Oval, and the Hawks, well, they're going to have to defy history here if they're going to make it through to a preliminary final, because it has been 42 years since the minor premier went out in straight sets. And Chad, maybe it's an omen, because in 1983 it was Hawthorn who knocked out North Melbourne and the Hawks went on to win the flag.
Well, we're not trying to be biased on this show, but
Never.
No one from the 8th spot has beaten the minor premiership in the finals, so they do have their work cut out for them. And Adelaide obviously got some few injuries, but let's just hope the Hawks, or myself personally, can get across the line.
Let's get to the tape now. And of course, the last time these two sides met was back in round 21 at the Adelaide Oval, so not that long ago. Plenty of momentum swings in this clash, and Josh, we do know in finals footy it often comes down to whoever handles the moments better, and Adelaide did just that in the final term.
They certainly did, Nat, and Hawthorn had their chances. They had 3 of the final 4 scores of the game, but unfortunately for Hawthorn, they were all behind. Jack Gunston had that opportunity. Massimo D'Ambrosio had this opportunity right here and did not take it. So Adelaide won by 14 points in the end. Isaac Rankin was best on ground. 9 coaches' votes, 3 goals. Clearly he won't be there on Friday night. Riley Thilthorpe kicked 4 goals. Jordan Dawson was close to best on ground with 8 coaches' votes, but he's coming off a quiet final, and we can't forget what happened to Jack Ginnivan at the airport.
Yeah, I know. We won't talk about that, I don't think. Chad, what are the lessons that Hawthorn would have taken from that loss in round 21?
Yeah, it was a spicy encounter, and what I think the Hawks need to learn is, and they have throughout the year, they actually conceded 54 points from turnovers last time they met Adelaide, and the reason why they're so good at it, they're actually second best in the competition. They average 39 points per game, so it's something that they can really hold their hat on. But Adelaide, for instance, we go back to them last week. They really struggled in this. So for the season, they average 58 points for the season per game off turnovers. So that's a real score source for them. But on the weekend against Collingwood, they shut them down. They kept them, so as you can see there, the difference is the 34 points, which is huge. So maybe they have a bit of a blueprint, Hawthorn, to look at, but I suppose Adelaide have got some work to do, but they've done it all season long, so maybe it's just a once-off for them.
Well, there are plenty of hard luck stories come finals, and unfortunately for Hawthorn forward Cal Shadir, he won't be out there in the semi-final. Subbed out last week against the Giants with a hamstring injury. And Josh, it's unfortunate for Calsh, but it now paves the way for Mitch Lewis to be recalled into this side after a pretty good hit out at Box Hill level.
It's cruel, isn't it, for Cal Shadir, because he's been through so much with his body this year, been playing catch-up because he missed the first 4 months of the year with stress fractures in his back. Subbed out tactically, but did have a cramp in his hamstring on Monday. That revealed a low-grade hamstring strain. So they've only ruled him out for this weekend, but I think it would be unlikely to see him again if they are to progress, because it is a hamstring. But as he touched on with Mitch Lewis, devastated last week to be dropped, hasn't played in a final just yet, but his attitude was sensational. Went back to Box Hill, kicked 4 goals, kicked 2 in that all-important last quarter when they came back from 33 points down to win the game. So you just never know when your time's going to come, but his response at Box Hill was huge, and all of a sudden he's in the frame to play his first final this weekend.
Chad, if he plays, what do you want to see from him out there?
I want to see him back to his best, and he showed snippets of it. When you think about Mitch Lewis at his best, it's aura, it's presence, and it's intoxicating. And that's what I want to see from him, because he's showing signs, dropping a few marks, but in the air, he looks so strong, and I can't wait to see him back out there if he gets on the park.
The Crows also have a big decision to make at the selection table. We haven't seen Josh Rochelle, who we know has plenty of X factor. He hasn't played since that knee injury in round 17. Josh, is he in?
I believe he'll play. Now, they've been working towards week 2 of September for the best part of a month, done a lot of work across the last 4 weeks, so now clearly in the frame to return. And with no Isaac Rankin, Matthew Nicks needs a difference maker, but Chad, can he be the difference after missing so much footy at the back end of the year?
Well, he's going to be super hungry. Think about someone who's been out of the game for so long, seeing them obviously lose on the weekend. He's going to come in hungry. I think he's going to come in prepared physically. I can't wait to see him because he's an exciting player to watch.
Speaking of small forwards with an X factor, of course, Jack Ginnivan is one of those. He was red hot against the Giants, 17 touches and 3 goals. And Josh, the turnaround in form from Guinea since he was dropped on Easter Monday has been quite remarkable.
Well, it's worth looking back now, Nat, because the body of work is phenomenal. On Good Friday, he was told he wasn't going to play in the Easter Monday Classic. Instead, he played in the Easter Sunday game in the VFL in front of a few hundred people. He went back there and his attitude was so good that he only spent 1 week there. But I did catch up with him a few weeks later. And if you look at some of the quotes, he essentially said that he needed to go back and play VFL because his first 5 games of the season were poor. Kicked 2 goals across that 5-game block, wasn't getting his hands on the foot, he wasn't having an impact. And since then, since round 7, he's rated as the number 5 general forward in the entire competition. He's one of just 5 players in the comp since that time to average 20-plus disposals and 1 goal per game. The other 4 players were named in the All-Australian team this year. Bontempelli, Richards, Zach Bailey and Isaac Heaney. Wow. So the company he's keeping in the back end of this year has been sensational. He's been one of the great entertainers, but he's much more than that now. And the impact that he had in a final, 3 goals, 2 crucial goals when they needed him, and the energy on the road, Sam Mitchell cited at post-game, is crucial.
Yeah, it is. Those Sellies, we absolutely love them. But it sparks the team. He's certainly been impressive. And someone else who has been impressive as well in the back half of the season, Chad, is your mate Jarman Impey. And maybe it has something to do with the arrival of baby Zion.
Yes, I mentioned to Jazzy a couple of months ago, I said, mate, have you seen your form since you've had baby Zion? It's been unbelievable. The numbers stack up. So I've done the research and we've got the parts here of how much he's just so vital for him. You think about how amazing he was last week in the finals, but he's averaging, more than 8 disposals after he obviously had Zion after that up in Gold Coast. And look at his metres gained, nearly double. Like he's been super impressive there, and obviously the player rating. You have his celebration there after the baby Zion was born, and what he adds is just another element of leadership, some composure. And you talk about Weddle, you talk about these guys who are run and carry. Jarman Impey is right up there. And we spoke about Blake Hardwick throughout the week, that he's the most underrated back in the competition. Jarman Impey for me is one up there as well because he needs to get his roses. He is right now, but he's been super impressive, and I think he will be in the finals.
Has to be one of the leading contenders for the Peter Crimmins medal. Yeah. I mean, you could throw a blanket over all of them. Jack Gunston, Josh Battle, Carl Amon. It's going to be tight.
Might not be a midfielder this year. It'll be interesting. Now, there has been a fair bit of drama at Hawthorn over the past week or so. The Hawks insist it won't be a distraction come game day, but there certainly is something fishy going on at Waverley Park.
Someone's pranked me, put 5 cans of open tuna. It was in my boots as well. Tuna flakes all on my drink bottle. So it's been a tough week and still don't know who's done it. Like, literally everybody is just like keeping quiet, which never happens at the footy club.
It deepened today. Scrim's locker was his birthday last week, and everything in his locker was wrapped in birthday wrapping paper. So there's someone sneaking around, and no one's got any idea who's. With this happening, there's probably too many. Like that whole corner sort of raised eyebrows at Nash and Day. It's a pretty tight-knit group down there, so they're doing a good job.
There's something fishy going on down there, Chad. Who would you think is responsible for Tunagate?
It's got to be CJ. I could name 10 as well. CJ, C-Mac. Day's normally, because he's got a lot of time on his hands, but all of them, chuck them all under the rug. I don't know who it is.
I'm hearing Luke Breust.
Oh, as if it's punky.
I'm telling you, I'm hearing Luke Breust.
Okay, well that's very
Don't rule
weird.
him
You
out.
and I hate tuna. You don't mind it, but you are opposed to Parmesan cheese.
Parmesan cheese can't be in the presents.
Okay, that is very, very weird. Now, every week during September, Premiership bomber Matthew Lloyd is joining us to dissect the finals. So it's time now for Lloydy's Lens. And Lloydy, Tunagate at Hawthorn. Have you ever played a prank, or has there been a prank during your time as a player?
I left my home in Moonee Ponds one morning, and John Barnes had wrapped my car in Glad wrap, so I didn't know what to do there. So he spent all night doing that, Johnny Barnes. And then the other one was Damien Hardwick scared of mice, and we're on a training camp one day, and as he fell asleep, Peter Sumwell came in with a box of mice to let him run loose in his room, and never seen a bloke standing on top of his bed, just petrified of these mice.
I can't even imagine that from Damien Hardwick.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Now, we mentioned Jack Ginnivan earlier, and he is part of a little brigade of small forwards who can cause a lot of havoc up there.
Yeah, looking forward to Friday night at the Adelaide Oval, and it's sort of finals aren't dominated by the big key forwards very often, as much as I hate to say that. It's been dominated, and the first week of the finals wasn't either. And you look at this game, and they've got so many of them, Hawthorn, whereas I look at the Adelaide Crows, and just wanted to freeze this one. Adelaide Crows didn't have many players play well in that first week of the final, but you got McDonald, you got Watson, you got Moore, you got Ginnivan, and Butler, who was pretty good last week. So the issue for Adelaide is how they can hope, and the synergy they have. This is one of the great handballs from Connor McDonald in the finals, over the top to Jack Ginnivan. So the synergy they've got between themselves is really, really strong. And I thought that Josh, Neil Bullen was poor. I thought that obviously Ben Keys had one of his worst games of the season. Then you bring in Josh Rochelle, who's underdone. So that seems it's a real advantage for Hawthorn going into this game.
How will Matthew Nicks use Josh Rochelle, Lloydy? Because he hasn't played since round 16. Clearly, he would have loved to get a game at a lower level before playing a cutthroat final. How's he going to use him?
Well, there's nowhere really to hide, is there, in finals? So I think you've just got to back him in and just hope that he comes in and performs and he can hit the scoreboard. But I think it puts pressure on Keys. So Keys with Rankin in the side, and Rochelle might get the number 3 defender. Now he's getting number 1, and that's where Rochelle coming in at least might free up one of the other defenders.
What about Adelaide skipper Jordan Dawson? Obviously an All-Australian this year, but he had a quiet first final, didn't he?
Yeah, I think Dawson's the most important player for Adelaide, and I think John Newcombe is for Hawthorn. They're completely different players, and I thought the last time they met, that game you spoke about earlier where the Crows won by 13 or 14 points, you can't give him his left foot, and they let themselves down, the Hawks, a couple of times where you got to keep him on his right side, force him to kick on his right foot. Left footers, Chad, we can't kick on our right foot. Dawson, Wingard and Lloyd, we could not use our right. It was only for balance, really. And then you've got here Dawson. Newcomb's on the wrong side, gives him his left foot, critical time. Hawks got off to a great start, but they just allowed for Dawson to have big moments and got them in. Here's John Newcombe. He does it a different way, so it's just brute force. So how they go about handling him, I think the Crows do have some big body players, but I think Newcomb's turnaround in form that since... I was concerned about him midway through the year, thinking what's happened with John Newcombe, and I think since he clashed with Jeremy Howe was off concussed, he got up and was best man on the ground. I think Hawthorn's form been of the better because of John Newcombe.
The other games, the Q clash, we are very much looking forward to this. The Brisbane Lions, though, they look like they might be in some trouble.
That's right, and Chris Fagan spoke after the game. You saw his concerns post-match because they're beaten in just about every area.
I thought Geelong's pressure and intensity, reaction time, they just look sharper than us tonight. And it showed in and around the contest. It showed in its stoppages. It showed in one-on-one contests around the ground. They were really ready tonight.
And this is just a piece of vision I want to show. It could have showed many where they were off the Brisbane Lions. So this ball leaves the area and I've frozen it. Look at all the Brisbane Lions just left in their wake. Sean Manor, you got Max Holmes here. They just worked harder and they spread harder. I've never seen Brisbane beaten up in this race. So when the ball hits the deck, they're queuing up here, the Cats. So no wonder Jack Martin gets out the back. I don't blame young Fletcher here. I blame the midfield of Brisbane who were just outworked time and time again by Geelong on Friday night.
And they're coming up against a pretty good Suns midfield, aren't they?
They are, and the Suns midfield, they're tough. And the last time they met these two teams, it was just brutal, where they were beaten in all the contested areas of the game. So look at that, so plus 72 in disposals, plus 12 in clearance, plus 8 in centre clearances, beaten up at inside, and then the score was plus 66 points. And Matthew Rowell does lead that. I know we speak about him a lot, but Josh, I think it's the explosive nature which he's brought to the table in this year, which I didn't think he had, and he's taken his game to another level.
Well, they got a sprint coach in the off season. It feels like it's paid dividends because his form on the spread, Lloydy, probably wasn't there previously. He's clearly added that to his game. What will that last Q clash do for them? Because they've only won 2 of the past 14 meetings against Brisbane, but it feels like it'll fuel the belief heading to the Gabba this weekend.
Yeah, massive, Josh. I think that they've always been the little brother who've been beaten up, and now they believe they belong, and they took it to the Brisbane Lions, and they beat them in a way that was as convincing as you want to see. And it's finals football, the way they beat them last time around. And Fremantle, this is the game that I think Brisbane need to play to beat the Gold Coast Suns. Take it away from Matthew Rowell. So see Matty Rowell's caught up here. you want the game to be less stoppages, less contest, I think, for Brisbane to win this. So keep the game in motion, and I thought that's what Fremantle did really well in this last quarter, where Brayshaw, Sarong, Tracy, so they got it out of the contest game, the clearance game. This is another one where fast motion, Freo only did it because they had to. They were in all sorts of trouble. I don't know where it was the first 3 quarters, but look at Matthew Rowell. He's running on the spot, so we're about to see a kick go. He can't run. Miller puts in a better effort, but I thought Rowell was tired by the last quarter because he throws so much into it. So I think Brisbane needed the game on the move as much as possible and out of a contested game.
Love it. Thanks, Lloydy. Great insights. Lloydy's Lens, it'll be back again next week. We're going to get to our top 5 now. And this week, it's all about the top 5 semi-final moments since 2000. And we start with Baz Lenka, 2021, playing for the Dogs. And, of course, his clutch goal here put the Dogs in front with a couple of minutes left to go in the game, and that celebration there is iconic. The ice in the veins sparked the Western Bulldogs, and what composure he had. Number 4, Blake Acres. Who could forget this? Because the MCG was absolutely shaking after he kicked a goal with 60 seconds left on the clock back in 2023, sealed the deal for the Blues and knocked the D's out in straight sets. It was absolutely sublime being there that night.
Speaking of sublime being there, Nat, I recall being here for this Jack Anthony moment. Free kick against Andy Otten, thought he'd taken the mark, but Jack Anthony, who'd had an incredible year, there's Ben Rutten holding him, free kick. Jack Anthony just did not miss that year. Did not miss. Went back, calmly slotted the goal just before the siren.
Number 2, just last year, Danaher's last quarter, but they were down 44 points, the Lions, halfway through the 3rd quarter, and Danaher just said, no worries, boys, here's my shoulders, jump on him, because I'm going to take us to the glory. Like, look at this, unbelievable shot from the boundary, from a left footer. That's the hardest spot in the ground to kick from, and a drop punt at that. And he just won his contest, kicking straight, unbelievable performance, and we know what happens at the rest of the year.
Ripped the hearts out of the Giants, and look at them there, the Lions. Absolutely amazing. And number 1, of course, Nick Davis, 2005, Swans down in the final term, trailing Geelong. He kicks 4 goals. That was the first.
Nick Davis! Nick Davis! I don't believe it! I see it, but I don't believe it!
And how good is that commentary from Anthony
almost
Hudson?
the best of all time.
It is.
That's
It's unbelievable
insane.
to kick 4 goals in the final term, to drag your side over the line. But he had no right, Chad, to kick that goal.
On the left, no right. Look at the scores there. I mean, 4 goals out of the small margin it was, out of the 7 in the last quarter. Unbelievable.
How's the banner? The banner's iconic as well. Nick
Yeah, I
Davis
know.
come to save us.
Oh, it's so good. You still get tingles watching that, and I've seen that a number of times.
Amazing.
Imagine what it was like being a Swans supporter, which our producer Sam Morwood is, and was adamant that that was number 1, but he is correct. Let's get to Saturday night now. It's the biggest Q clash ever. Brisbane hosting the Gold Coast Suns at the Gabba, and unfortunately for the Lions, well, their dual Brownlow medalist, Lachie Neale, won't be out there. He's going to miss the rest of the season with a calf injury, and Chad, he knew as soon as he did it, it was serious, came off the ground. My question to you is, can the Lions win the flag without him? In fact, can they win this weekend without him?
I don't think so. Honestly, not just Lachie Neale. We think about some of the other players that they're missing as well, Josh. You've got, obviously, Danaher from their grand final team. Like, it's unbelievable who they don't have Ainsworth, Jack Payne, Hipwood. But you see there, yes, they have one without him, but not without the whole crew. And Lachie Neale, yes, a calf, you can't get back from that. Like, I've had plenty of them, and the way that he jumped, it looked like a pretty significant one. But you see the writing there, Josh. It's they have one without him, but I don't think they can do it.
Well, you go back to that Sydney game in round 22, Chad, and who got more midfield minutes? Levi Ashcroft. Now, Levi Ashcroft played his first final last Friday night. He was subbed out. It was arguably his quietest game of the season. He's had a phenomenal debut season, but he's starting that round 22 game. 27 disposals, 14 contested, 7 clearances. So I expect him to go inside on Saturday night and get much more opportunity. But you're right, look at the players that are missing. It just feels like weight of numbers now, Nat. It's going to get them.
Yeah, you spoke about that on AFL Daily during the week on Monday, so take a listen to that if you want to. But to Gold Coast now, and they win their first ever final, which was unbelievable. And I feel like we've been singing the praises of Matt Rowell, as Lloydy mentioned there, and of course Noah Anderson all season. But there are some unsung heroes, and they lie in the back line, Josh.
They do know. And everyone knows about Sam Collins, but he still doesn't get the credit down south that he deserves. He's a two-time best and fairest winner, completely revived his career in Queensland since being delisted by Fremantle, having to go back to Werribee and doing what he's done. He's clearly one of the best key defenders in the competition. Bodie Hewland could walk through Melbourne and no one would know who he is. He came runner-up behind Sam Collins in last year's best and fairest, and he is an absolute brute. What a force. He's the academy pick that we never talk about, a rookie, been an absolute star. And Will Powell is one of the most intriguing picks, Nat, in the history of the Gold Coast Suns. To the fact where in 2017, Chad, when they were discussing him internally, they referred to him as Player X for 6 months because they just didn't want him to get out. You look at draft night, and the day before the draft, then list manager Scott Clayton picked up the phone to Shifter Sheen and to our very own Cal Toomey and told them all about Will Powell, just so they were aware they had the background heading into the draft the next night. He was such a bolter that no one knew who he was on the night. Pick 19 felt absolutely audacious for him at that stage of his career. He's come runner-up in the best and fairest. He's been top 10 in the past 4 years. And what we saw on Saturday night in Perth in an elimination final sums up why he's become so important to that back line. But he is part of this group that just doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Yeah, certainly. I remember that draft night too. We were all running around going, is it Will with 1 L or 2 L's? The 1 L, of course. Now, Josh, last week you talked about Suns coach Damien Hardwick and his love of a theme. And in recent weeks, it, of course, has been all about OKC. But I can't keep up because there's a new theme. What is it?
Well, Dim is the master of themes, Nat. He's been doing this for the best part of 15 years. He was famous for it at Richmond. He's taken it up to the Gold Coast Suns. And we've loved learning about Detroit, the city and the teams that he's used across this year. We discussed the OKC Thunder theme last week. Well, last week when they went to WA, they used a theme, the Vanderbilt Commandeers in college football.
Yeah, right.
And it was almost this time last year where they faced Alabama, the #1 seed in college football. They had not beaten a top 5 seed in the country for more than 90 years, 60 consecutive games. And this is what happened. They beat them. Their fans stormed the field. They took the goalposts out. They walked about 3 or 4 kilometres back down Broadway in Nashville, and then they threw the goalposts in the river. And the reason the Suns are using this theme is because they have been leaning into the underdog story. They went on the road last week. No one expected them to upstage Fremantle at home in their first final, but they believed that they could actually not just make up the numbers in September, but inflict some damage. Well, they certainly did that at Optus Stadium last week.
Chad, do they have enough Gold Coast Suns fans to actually go and pick up some goalposts if they do
might have to
win?
use Sam Collins to actually rip out the goalposts and chuck it away. But geez, I've never seen it. That's unbelievable.
We'd love to see that happen at the game. Imagine if they beat Brisbane at home.
Outrageous. Well, I actually am tipping the Suns. You think? Suns?
Yeah, I'm going
Lions?
with Suns just out of their, I suppose, respect for the players that are missing for Brisbane.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love what the Suns are doing. I think they're going to get a little roll.
And they're wearing their pink Guernsey, so we're all on board because we absolutely love it. That is the round ahead. Thanks to Coles. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the footy. We'll see you again next Wednesday.